everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Sphere of Success, where we look at life's adversities and challenge, especially in the business context, and help to look at this as reframing for opportunity, for growth potential, for maybe having that catalyst that sets us on a new journey that we think, when we look back, wow, that was the best thing that could have happened. But at the time, we're thinking, oh no, not this. I don't want this. This is scary. So today we have a wonderful guest, Karen Bashford. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, Karen helps ladies to step into their truth, to reach their potential, their full beingness in a calm, relaxed, effortless manner. She's a master at transformation, has come at this from the sharp end. So she's very much an embodiment of moving there herself. So you can be guaranteed that what you're doing and how you're doing it, obviously it's personal to you, but Karen has been through so many scenarios in her own life that she can really identify with the issues that women face and how she can help. And Karen, I'd love to know, because it's so interesting on so many levels, a little bit about your journey as to where you have been and what has brought you to where you are now.
Okay, from a business perspective, I worked for a bank for 20 odd years, took redundancy and lost most of that money to my ex-husband because he took a year and a half to finally agree to a divorce. And in that time, my money was used to support the house that I could not sell because he was living in it. So it was a case of, okay, so I've left the bank. I did go to be a financial advisor and qualified. However, that only works if you can focus full time on the business. And going through a divorce with my husband was not the most pleasant. So it was a case of step back from that. So what did I do next? I went back to work for the bank, believe it or not, as a data inputter of all things. Very boring, but it paid some bills because I was not allowed to earn very much money because my husband could claim against me otherwise, despite the fact that we didn't have children. He could actually claim against me. And it was during that time, it was like, what do I want to do? So my experience as working in the bank taught me a lot about running a business, surprisingly. So I set up my own virtual PA business. 5 years of success, and suddenly it was like, I don't want to work with computers anymore. I want to work with people. And I literally shut it down overnight. It was like, just can't do this anymore. It was draining me totally and absolutely. I was very isolated. Yes, I had my clients, but they were all busy with their business and I was helping them grow it. And it was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So I set up as I trained as a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner. Loved it. Got to meet some beautiful clients. Unfortunately, there was a mindset of I can't be successful. So it sort of went downhill, and it was an awakening to the sense that I needed to do work on myself, which I did. And luckily, I then started up again, having done a year of working as a financial advisor's PA. I started up again and gradually went through the process of building the business. However, in 2023, I had a nervous breakdown and I could not run my business. I was doing business, but I wasn't working on the business. I was just ticking it over. And it wasn't until the beginning of this year that I started to really step back in to running my business as a business and working with more women helping them heal from the trauma and changing their lives. So my whole journey has been an experience of change, the reality of running a business when you're not capable.
No, that's a very interesting, and thank you for being again so open and honest because the transparency and the clarity of your message, I'm sure, will resonate, and it does with me, with a lot of people. You went through a very challenging time through your divorce. For people, because life isn't a bed of roses, as we know, it's a wonderful experience when we reframe it. But when you were going through that, I'd love to know how you kept your body and soul together without going off the rails by that stress and anxiety. What did you do? How did you come at it?
Unfortunately, I ate. My go-to comfort is literally to eat. So I'd be quite often just looking for something to eat. I would be doing work and then it was like, can't do this. And I would go and find food. I spent probably half of the time we were getting divorced either looking for food or eating food. And I put a lot of weight on to the point I would look in the mirror and think, Karen, what have you done to yourself? But it was a sense of not judgment, but it was a sense of understanding why I did it. Because as we all know, divorce can either be calm and smooth, or it can be very, very challenging. Still running a business while going through that divorce was, how do we put it? I want to say that it was probably my lifesaver because it gave me something to focus on other than the divorce. So I'm very grateful that I had my own business, that I could actually take that time to sit and eat or just to cry, because I had to do a lot of crying to be able to get through the pain that the divorce was causing me.
And looking back at that period now, with the lens that you have from your awakening, as you've said, how would you look at that part of your life as an element in it as to where you are now?
I would say it was a blessing because it showed how strong I really was. If I could get through a horrendous divorce, still manage to maintain a business, and even though I was massively overweight, I gained so much from the experience that I am grateful for the time that I went through. And for some people, that's like, why? But it taught me so much about myself that I hadn't realized. Quite how resilient I was, quite how determined I could be. And I sometimes look at myself now and think, if only I had that focus I had then, life now would be different. But I also recognize I don't want that focus anymore. It doesn't serve me in the same way as it did then.
And with that, how do you help in your wonderful business women who are going through similar or massive change in their life? How do you use the benefit of your experience to help those women navigate and see, not necessarily from the perspective of hindsight, but looking at those challenges now as that opportunity where they can reframe really quickly and deeply into that adversity and make a positive element out of it?
The one thing I would always say to somebody, no matter what you're facing, there is a reason behind it. There is something that you have to learn about yourself or you have to experience that will enable you to recognize quite how powerful you really are. And we always get through any adversity. It will end, but it's taking the tiny steps along the route to recognize that, okay, today isn't a good day, but tomorrow's going to be better. Or what can I experience today that's going to improve how I feel about my life now? I will start the day always with an intention. It didn't matter what I was going through, I would always start the day with an intention. That intention gives you a purpose for getting through the day. So I would often say, right, today I'm just going to get this, this, and this done. Doesn't matter how long it's going to take me, I'm just going to get it done. And that gave me the purpose behind me just getting through the day, which sometimes I just didn't want to. I just wanted to stop and go to bed or go and hide or just walk away. I actually, at one point, actually got into my car and just took myself for a drive. That drive lasted 5 hours because that's what I needed at that time. My clients weren't particularly happy with me, but they also understood because I'd been open and honest with them about my divorce. And I think that's one thing. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Be open and honest with the people that are in your life so they can support you, not necessarily emotionally, but just with understanding as to why you're not 100%, because you're not going to be.
That's so that's so interesting that you say be open and honest. And how important is letting people know? I want to use the word sharing with caution because we don't want to overburden people with our issues, especially from a business context. But how do you broach that when you're trying to look serene on the surface and that you're coping and that you don't want people to feel that you're weak and that you're not going to do a good job?
I would challenge you in that one because we are energetic beings. People will pick up on how you are feeling about yourself. They will not necessarily understand if you don't explain. And when I say explain, you can just say, look, I'm not having a good day today. As you know, I'm going through a divorce. Or if they don't know, or you're going through a health issue, you can say, I am experiencing. You don't have to go into the detail, but you have to let them know that perhaps on some days you're not going to be as good as you normally are because of how you are actually feeling. But they will pick that up at a subconscious level. And potentially, if you're not open and honest with them and just say, look, I'm having a rough time, because they are not necessarily going to be as understanding of the situation. All they will sense is something is off, but they won't necessarily know how to approach you to ask the question, are you all right? And please don't just say, I'm fine, if you're not, because that does not work, because you're not answering what they are sensing is coming from you. I think we need to be more open about situations that we're facing, because we all face them. And if we're open about it, we can just have that conversation that says, look, today it's not a good day. I'm going to delay doing this work. Is it going to impact you? Or is there something that we can perhaps arrange that somebody else can take it on? because sometimes that's what we need. But if you're not willing to share even just the basics with somebody, how can they help you? How can you help them achieve the results they're looking for if you're not up to supporting them in the way you need to?
Yeah, that's that's very true. And you touched upon something again where you look back and you're now able to see that for the blessing that it was, as awful as it was. Is there a way, do you think, that when bad things happen, could be of our making? Most often, things that I've experienced recently are out of my control. How can we circumnavigate that, oh, this is awful, to actually thinking quickly that this can be a blessing?
Know yourself. Know why you're going to automatically assume it's awful. Because the reality is, we never go through anything that we can't cope with. So it's having that decision made that it doesn't matter how bad something appears, there is always a blessing within it. Nowadays, I can literally sit and contend with a disaster, but still be calm about it, because I know that at the end of the day, this is only here for me to be challenged to learn something about myself, or to experience something that will enable me to see something in a different perspective. Because everything we face is basically challenging us to understand ourselves better, or to perceive our perception of what we are facing in a different way.
So, what you're saying then is our perception isn't necessarily the truth.
No, absolutely not. Far from
Mhm.
it.
Could you go into a little bit more detail about that so people go, what do you mean perception isn't the truth? That would be really helpful.
Okay. Let's try and find an example. So I'm trying to pull in something that I've been through recently, or a client's been through. Okay, so if you look at a decision I made on the spur of the moment, was in June, that I needed a holiday. My mother died in May. I'd gone through the nervous breakdown. I'd been still running my business, and it was like suddenly my body went, I just need a rest. I need to just get away and stop looking at the laptop and stop doing the same things. I just needed something different. So I made the decision to go on holiday. The thing was, I couldn't make my mind up where I wanted to go. Despite the options that were available, I just could not make my mind up. But then again, I'd been saying for years I wanted to return to Egypt. But I kept saying, when I was thinking of the holiday, I can't go to Egypt. It's going to be too hot. At that time, Egypt, for where I wanted to go particularly, was going to be at least 41 degrees. I love heat, so it wasn't an issue. But in my mind, I kept saying, can't go to Egypt. It's going to be too hot. Because not only did I want to go into the desert, I wanted to travel through the desert down into an oasis that is near the Lebanon border. And it was like, no, can't do that. It's going to be too hot. It's going to be too hot. And it didn't matter how hard I tried to find somewhere I wanted to go. I could not find somewhere. So in the end, it was a case of, okay, I'm just going. I am going to Egypt. I booked my flight. I spoke to the gentleman that was going to do the tour with me, and it was literally him and somebody else. I'd never met them. I'd only met him through WhatsApp. I landed in Egypt with no cash, no language, no phone. And I literally walked out the airport entrance. to be greeted by this crowd of people with no idea who I was supposed to be meeting because he was sending somebody to meet me. I could have chosen to perceive that as really fearful. I, in fact, chose to perceive it as an adventure. And in doing so, I was actually helped by three gentlemen who spoke English, who took me to the Vodafone booth where I could get my SIM from my phone to be able to use it in Egypt and not be charged astronomical fees, and who accepted the fact that I did not have cash, I only had cards, so I couldn't tip them for helping me. They even phoned the gentleman to ensure that I knew who to meet and he knew that I had arrived. And they stood with me until the gentleman who was picking me up to take me to the hotel turned up. This, by the way, was at 1 p.m. in the morning. That's perception, and how you can perceive something that could have been an absolute nightmare could be an adventure.
So was this without your phone and money? Was that a conscious decision that you left UK without it?
I took my phone, but I couldn't use it because roaming charges would be, it's about £500 just to use the phone.
Right.
There was no cash because I can't buy Egyptian pounds in the UK.
Ah, right.
So there's no cash. Yes, I could have taken American or euros or something like that. But the conversion rate for me against them, they'd be getting an absolute fortune. So I wasn't prepared to do that. And I had no need to have that money because as far as I was concerned, I was being picked up. And they were covering everything for me from the moment they picked me up. So I had no need to have that cash because everything could be done on card out there, same as it is in the UK.
And this is the amazing thing when you choose to view something in a way which is exciting and liberating and childlike and curious, as opposed to fearful, shut down, panicked, and anxious, everything then takes a magical quality.
Hmm.
And thinking of how that holiday then went, where would it stand in, you say, your top 10 holidays of your life? For different reasons, but where would you say that one stood from memorability perspective?
From memorability perspective, it's number one, partly because I had to hand responsibility of my life over to men. And in the discovery that I didn't trust men, it was an absolute eye-opener to be treated with respect, to be able to just let go and trust that they would look after me was phenomenal. Partly for that reason, but partly because it gave me the experience of Egypt that I was looking for when I booked it. I'd been to Egypt, I'd been into the desert, but I went to places because I was with them on my own. They took me to places that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to go if I'd gone traveling on my own there or if I'd gone through a tour group. So yeah, it gave me an experience of a lifetime.
And how was the heat?
I loved it. I love heat. I'm actually moving to Cyprus because of the heat. I
So,
want that heat.
so the narrative that you told yourself because you couldn't go because it would be too hot actually turned out to be of no consequence.
None at all. I loved standing out in the middle of the desert, looking out over the image of this openness in 41 degrees with no trouble at all.
And doesn't that tell us about these things which happen, that if we can reframe and look at it from the eyes of an adventurer. And again, I draw back to this lovely picture that you have behind you of the heart and the inner child, is that sense of wonderment. And there was a quote from Brideshead Revisited, and it was not the main, well, it was the guy Charles, I believe, and it was his father when Charles said, "Oh, I want to go to Paris and be an artist, but I have no money." And his father said, "Well, what's money got to do with it?"
Mm.
And at the time when I read that, I thought, well, everything, because you need money. Well, actually, if you want something badly enough, you'll go do it.
Yeah.
The money will come and you'll do it.
Hmm.
And he went and he studied in Paris and he studied his art. And that's the thing, I think there's that desire, isn't it?
Yeah.
That that purpose pushes us through. And with that purpose and all that you've told us, and time has just been magical listening to you, and I can't believe how quickly it's raced by. It would be wonderful to hear from you. What does success mean to you?
Oh, deep breath in. What does success mean to me? Success means to me the ability to just do what I want to do without fear.
Mm. Yeah, that word, fear. And I've heard this when I say sphere of being as in a globe and sphere of success, which are the names of my podcasts, people sometimes hear that of fear,
Mm.
being frightened of being and fear of success. And when I look at it, I think, well, actually, yeah, I've been frightened of
Mm.
success. I've been frightened of being me.
Mm.
And that's a very interesting kind of like mishearing. I try and now always say it's a globe and it's a sphere. But fear comes into that globe because it's
It's,
all part of it.
it's part of life. You don't go anywhere without fear to an extent, but it's accepting that you will naturally fear something because it's unknown. But so what if it's unknown? Your whole life is unknown. So why be fearful of your whole life?
Wise words, Karen, wise words. And I do hope that this has resonated as much as with me, with everybody listening, because, somebody said, do it afraid.
Mm.
They were on the podcast, lovely lady, and she said, do it afraid. And it was a quote from her mother. And that's it, because when we do it afraid, it's just going to unfold. Anyway, if we wait, it could have been, as you said, it's that holiday is a number one holiday for so many reasons. And if you'd have let your fear of whatever it was take over and not do it, you'd have denied yourself that opportunity and you'd have never have known.
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest on the show. It's been a privilege and such a pleasure to have you share your insights and your wisdom. And they are so deep. I know that your rivers do, they do run very deep. And it's lovely to have you so open and sharing and caring with us. I'd love for you to let us know, how can people get hold of you?
My website, karenbashford.com, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn at Karen Bashford Empower You.
That is fabulous. Thank you so much. And do be in touch with Karen. I have to say, when you've talked to Karen, as we have off air a couple of times now, you know what? You know that you're with a friend. You know that with somebody that really has your best interests at heart. And that comes across very quickly with you, Karen. And we've shared a little bit about your family background as well. But my goodness me, you sure do lead with love. And I can feel the warm embrace that you're giving everybody now, even if it's over the internet. I can feel it coming through. So thank you so much. And everybody listening, if that's resonated, please do have a listen to our channel, have a look. We've got some wonderful guests on there, just like Karen, or speaking about all different types of experiences that they've had as well. Do like and subscribe because that then gets the word out. And if we can touch just one person and help them to overcome something which is actually a challenge for them in a way which is like Karen has with her holidays and so many other things she's done in her life, then I'm doing my job, Karen's doing her job as well. So that's great. Until the next time, it's been lovely to have everybody. Thank you again, Karen, and we'll see you all soon. Bye bye now.
Bye.